we're going to look at factoring trinomials that have leading coefficients. So what that means is so far you have been working with trinomials that looked like this. And what we're going to do is we're going to put a number out here in front. So this is known as the leading coefficient. So it's like the line leader of the trinomial. All right. So one thing we know is that this number will never be 0, because if that was the case, then we would have bx plus c, which is a line, not a quadratic. That would be linear. We also know that a isn't going to be 1. Those are the kind that we just learned how to do. So we know for the problems that we're looking at today that a is not going to be 0 or 1. So that's just kind of a side note on there. All right, there's a few ways to do this, and I kind of struggle all the time the best way to teach this. When I learned, it was just trial and error. You figured out what numbers, how you could get it to work, so that when you multiplied the binomials back together, you would get the trinomial that you started with. Then I've seen other ways that it's been taught. So I'm going to show you one way in this video, and just keep in mind that this is not the only way that this problem can be done. Once we learn how to factor by grouping, which is another type of factoring, this could be done that way. So we haven't done that yet, so that's why I'm not going to do that method. But all right, so here's our first example. So we have 3m squared minus 14m plus 15. So if you remember when we were factoring trinomials like this, we would look at what numbers multiply to be 15 that add up to negative 14. That's not going to work anymore because we have a number out here. So when we multiply and set up our binomials, one of them is going to have to be 3m, because we can't get m times m would just be m squared, and we need a 3m squared, so we know that we're going to have another number in there. So again, this is just one way to figure this out. I'm going to go over here and make a pretty big X. All right, this is going to be like my scratch work. All right, what we're going to do is we are going to multiply the 3 and the 15 together. So looking up here, we're going to multiply the A and the C together. That gives me the number 45. So I'm going to put that right up here. So this is the product. So to get this, I multiplied the 3 and the 15. That gives me 45. All right. Down here, I'm going to put the sum. So we have to add up to negative 14. And that is the sum, which is the middle term, basically, is the other thing that we could say. So let me just write middle term. All right, so now what we're going to do is basically what we did before. So we need to think of what numbers would multiply to be 45 that would add up to negative 14. So what numbers will multiply to be 45 that will add up to negative 14? And hopefully it's coming to you that that would be a negative 9 and a negative 5. Those multiply to be 45, but they add up to negative 14. All right. Now I know if I just write the answer out like we're used to writing the answer out, I'm going to end up with these numbers, but it's still not going to give me that 3. So what we need to remember is that to get this, we multiplied by 3, so we need to undo that by dividing by 3. Okay? I can divide this by 3. Negative 9 divided by 3 is negative 3. I can't divide this by 3, so I'm going to leave it. So here's what happens when we come back over to write our answer. All right? One of our factors is negative 3, so I can just say m minus 3. All right? The other factor is negative 5/3. So what we do is this becomes the 3 that attaches to the m and then minus 5. So negative 5/3 is the same as 3m minus 5. So now, if we look at foiling this back together, then we can see that if we FOIL, we will get back what we started. So you might just need to pause for a minute and scope that out. So that would give us the 3m squared. That would give us negative 5m. This would be negative 9, which adds up to negative 14, and that gives us a positive 5. So remember, all of your answers can be checked by foiling back together. All right, let's try another one. So, example 2, and you'll get the hang of it. And again, remember that this is just one way. So over the course of the unit, I'll show you, again, like once we learn other ways, I'll show you how you can factor differently. All right, so looking at this trinomial, we have a leading coefficient of 4. So I'm going to go over here and make this x. All right, right here, I'm going to multiply those two together. So that gives me negative 20. And then I'm going to look at the middle term, which is negative 19. So what we want are numbers that multiply to be negative 20, but add up to negative 19. So if you think about it, factors of 20. So what would give us negative 20 when we multiply, but give us negative 19 when we add them together? So hopefully you are thinking negative 20 with positive 1. All right. But since we multiplied by 4 to get that, we need to divide that 4 back out. So when we divide that 4 back out, this becomes negative 5. So there's one of ours. The other one we can't divide, so we're going to leave it. So when we come back to write our answer, so we know we have two binomials. One of them is negative 5, so m minus 5. The other one is 1/4. Well, that 4 is the 4 that I need. Oh, I don't know why I just wrote an m. Sorry. This 4, here, we'll fix it. There we go. This 4 is the 4 that I need in front. So this is going to become 4m because of the denominator, and then plus 1 because the answer was positive 1/4. And then if you distribute back, FOIL that back together, you'll get what you started with. All right, let's try another one. So, example 3. And remember, on all these videos, the whole purpose is that you can go back and rework or rewatch anything that you need to. All right, so 3x squared plus 5x minus 12. And you guys will get better at these as time goes on. All right, so I'm going to go over here and make this giant x. So multiply these two together, and that's going to be negative 36. But the sum is 5. So we need to think of what numbers would multiply to be negative 36 that would add up to be 5. Hopefully you're thinking about 9 and negative 4, because those multiply to be negative 36, but add up to be 5. All right? But we have to remember that we borrowed this 3 to get the 36, so now we need to take it back out. So this one reduces to 3, so there's one of our numbers. The other one can't be reduced, but the way we handle that is we know that one of our answers is 3, so m plus 3. This one is negative 4/3. Well, again, this denominator is what we need. Oh my gosh, I just did it again. Goodness gracious. All right, this is an x. I don't know what my problem is today. Maybe I need some M&Ms. All right, this one right here is going to be, this 3 is the 3 that we need for our coefficient here. So this is going to translate to be 3x minus 4. And again, once you go through and distribute, FOIL that back together, you will get what you started with. Okay, I hope that's enough examples. If you need more, please go back and replay the video. And again, what we were doing today was factoring trinomials that have a leading coefficient.